All right, you've asked us to dive deep into something. Well, something strange, something hidden, something vast and pale lurking in the world's most extreme waters.
That's right.
We're heading to the icy, crushing depths, specifically to explore the legend of the Ningen and the theory that its existence isn't just a cryptid tale, but maybe a secret actively kept from you.
Yeah, the Ningen occupies this really fascinating space, doesn't it? Right on the edge between cryptid legend and this really chilling conspiracy theory. It's the idea of a creature so immense and frankly unsettling that governments and the sources often point particularly to Japan's government are allegedly involved in a massive cover-up to hide it.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We've taken the sources you've provided, the articles, research notes, those forum discussions, to really unpack this Ningen cover-up theory as it's presented in that material.
So we'll look at how the creatures are described in these sources, trace the legend's surprisingly modern origins from, anonymous internet posts to claims involving actual government vessels, and we'll dissect the evidence that proponents say fuels the belief.
And then we'll weigh that against the scientific counter-arguments, the stuff discussed in the debunking sources. And finally, maybe ponder why such a bizarre and terrifying theory captures the imagination and resonates so deeply.
Exactly. It's kind of about uncovering what's presented as hidden and trying to figure out why the idea of something hidden, especially deep down in the ocean, holds such power for us.
Okay, let's jump in then. First off, what is this Ningen creature? According to the descriptions we find across the sources, what does it supposedly look like?
Well, the descriptions are consistently unsettling. They pull together features you really wouldn't expect to find together. Predominantly, they're described as being white or pale, sometimes even translucent.
Okay, pale, like camouflage, maybe.
Yeah, proponents connect that to blending in with polar ice, exactly.
And then the shape, that's the weird part, right?
That's the striking thing, yeah. The humanoid shape. They reportedly have a distinct torso, 2 arms with hands, and even 5 fingers. So, from the waist up, surprisingly human-like, according to these accounts.
But things get weird below the waist.
They do. This is where descriptions really diverge. Some sources claim they have 2 legs, almost like a giant pale person swimming.
Wow.
Others describe a lower body that's more like a mermaid, a single powerful tail or fin. It's inconsistent.
And the face, or lack of one.
Yeah, that really adds to the strangeness. Often descriptions range from completely smooth and featureless
Creepy.
to having only rudimentary details, small eyes, perhaps a rudimentary mouth. Some sources lean towards them being described as just massive, pale, humanoid shapes without any discernible face at all, which is, profoundly unsettling.
And the size. We're not talking about something you could miss easily.
Not at all. This is absolutely key to the legend. They are consistently reported to be enormous.
Like how enormous?
The estimated lengths in the sources typically range from 20 to 30 meters, so that's roughly 60 to 100 feet.
Wow.
Some claims push that even larger, putting them in the size class of the biggest whales we know.
The sheer scale is significant.
Absolutely. It feeds directly into the idea that they could be misidentified from a distance. Proponents suggest their size and pale color could make them look like icebergs or even submarines if you only glimpse them briefly,
Makes sense. And where are these alleged giants supposedly found?
Their reported primary habitat is the frigid, deep waters of the Antarctic and Arctic Oceans.
Okay, the poles?
And this location is crucial to the theory because, as sources point out, these are among the least explored, most extreme environments on Earth.
Right.
The thinking is, if there were undiscovered megafauna of this scale, these remote polar regions are kind of the most plausible place for them to hide.
So remote, cold, deep. And their behavior? Are they aggressive or?
Incredibly elusive, apparently. Sightings are always described as rare and brief, often happening at night or in conditions of poor visibility. Yeah. They reportedly surface for only short periods, sometimes near research or whaling ships, which is key later, before quickly diving back down into the abyss.
And how do they move?
Their movements are often described as slow, deliberate, almost ghostly, or even submarine-like, not frantic.
Okay, so we have the alleged creature description. Huge, pale, humanoid-ish, elusive, deep polar dweller. But where did this idea even begin? You said it's modern. This isn't like a centuries-old sea monster legend.
You're exactly right. The Ningen legend is distinctly modern. It's born directly from the digital age, really emerging in the early 2000s.
And the specific origin point, where did it first pop up?
The sources widely attribute its birth to 2channel, which is now known as 5channel. It's this massive, anonymous Japanese internet forum.
Anonymous forum. That feels significant, doesn't it?
It is, hugely. The initial claims, allegedly surfacing somewhere between 2002 and 2007, came from anonymous individuals. These posters claim to be former crew members of Japanese government whaling research vessels operating down in the Antarctic.
Ah, the research vessel connection again.
Exactly. They described these unsettling encounters they'd supposedly had. And, the anonymity of 2channel was perfect for sharing outlandish claims without immediate personal consequences or needing verification.
So the connection to government operations was baked into the story from the very start.
Precisely. A key element right from the outset was the implication that these sightings weren't random. They occurred during research missions conducted by the Japanese government.
Right.
This immediately introduces the idea that the government wasn't just, whaling. They were potentially involved in secret investigations in the region. The sources note that the vast kind of secretive nature of government operations in remote polar regions provides this compelling backdrop for a hidden agenda, making the claim seem more plausible to believers.
And the name Ningen, that means human being in Japanese. That choice adds a lot to the creep factor, doesn't it?
It really does. It adds this profound, almost disturbing psychological layer. By calling it human being, it makes the creature both alien and unsettlingly familiar, blurring the lines and tapping into deeper fears about what humanity could mean or what other forms it might take. It's such a simple name, but very effective for a modern myth.
And from 2channel, the story just spread.
It did, like wildfire online. It jumped from 2channel to other Japanese forums, blogs, and then quickly spread to Western cryptid and paranormal websites, often via translation and retelling.
And probably got distorted along the way.
Oh, definitely. With each spread, details were embellished, new alleged sightings were added, and crucially, the conspiracy element, the government cover-up angle, grew stronger and stronger.
And what about those early images? The blurry photos?
Right, the low-quality, blurry images and grainy videos that often circulated with the early posts. Paradoxically, rather than providing clear proof, they actually fueled the mystery.
How so?
Because they were so ambiguous. They allowed proponents to project their own fears and interpretations onto the shapes, making the legend more compelling and, importantly, resistant to simple debunking. You see what you want to see.
Okay, let's get to the core of the theory itself, the actual Ningen cover-up.
Yeah.
What are the foundational beliefs here, according to these sources?
Okay, so at its base, the belief is that Ningens are not just cryptozoological speculation. They are a real, undiscovered biological species of marine megafauna.
So a real animal.
A tangible reality, yeah. Perhaps some highly evolved form of deep-sea life perfectly adapted to its environment, and according to the theory, their classification as a mere cryptid is just a smokescreen maintained by powerful entities.
Yeah, those powerful entities are governments.
Yes, the theory centers around the idea that multiple governments, primarily Japan's, given the origin story, but potentially others with a significant polar presence like the US, UK, maybe Russia, are fully aware of the Ningen's existence. They know these creatures are real.
And they've had concrete interactions, not just blurry sightings.
Proponents claim these governments haven't just glimpsed them. They've had definitive, verifiable encounters. This could include clear visual sightings, definite sonar contacts, maybe even direct physical interaction or capture of specimens.
And all the proof, the good photos, the data is locked away.
That's the assertion. The theory asserts that these governments possess a significant amount of classified evidence. We're talking high-resolution photographs, clear video footage, detailed biological data, perhaps even physical specimens, living or deceased. This information is supposedly locked away in top-secret facilities.
So they're not just hiding them, they're actively studying them.
That's a huge part of the theory, yes. Believers claim governments are engaged in highly classified research programs focused specifically on ningens. They're studying their unique biology, their physiology, potential intelligence, adaptations to extreme deep-sea environments.
Where would they even do that?
The theory suggests maybe secret underwater bases or disguised research vessels carrying on from that initial premise.
Okay, but why? What are the alleged motives behind such a massive, coordinated cover-up, according to the theory? Why go to such extreme lengths?
The sources discuss several frankly, terrifying possibilities. One big one is the prevention of public panic and societal collapse.
Right. People freaking out.
Exactly. Proponents argue that revealing giant, pale, humanoid creatures living in our oceans would trigger widespread global panic. It would shatter existing scientific and biological paradigms, potentially challenge religious beliefs, and just cause a breakdown of social order due to fear of the unknown and the, alien yet familiar nature of the creature.
Okay, preventing panic makes a certain kind of dark sense, if you accept the creature is real. What else?
Another major motive cited is resource control and exploitation. The theory suggests Ningens might inhabit or be intrinsically linked to areas rich in valuable undiscovered resources, things like rare earth minerals, unique deep-sea energy sources, or other strategic assets.
So hide the monster, get the goods.
Basically, yeah. Governments would want exclusive knowledge and control over these areas and the resources within them.
And then there's the potential military angle, which always comes up in these things.
Yes, and this is perhaps the most sinister aspect described in the sources. The theory posits that governments might be studying Ningens for biological or technological exploitation.
Like what specifically?
Trying to reverse engineer their unique adaptations to pressure, cold, or depth for military applications, maybe in material science, survival technology, or even biological warfare. Or, if the creatures show signs of intelligence, exploiting their communication methods for intelligence gathering.
And the extreme version of that, weaponizing them.
Weaponization, yes. The theory includes the frightening possibility that governments might be attempting to control, breed, or even train Ningens, turning them into massive, stealthy, almost unstoppable living weapons capable of locating and destroying submarines, surface ships, or critical underwater infrastructure. It gets pretty sci-fi.
Wow, okay. What about hiding other secrets? Is that part of it too?
That's also suggested in some sources, yeah. The Ningen cover-up might not be the only secret. It could be part of a larger web of hidden knowledge about the deep ocean, including maybe evidence of alien bases, lost ancient civilizations, or even interdimensional portals. The Ningens themselves might be related to these other secrets, or perhaps even act as guardians of them. It connects to a lot of other fringe ideas. And finally, just basic national security and strategic advantage are proposed. The very existence of such powerful, unknown creatures could pose an unpredictable threat to naval operations. Or, conversely, if their abilities could be harnessed, secrecy would provide a significant strategic advantage over rival nations.
It all keeps coming back to those initial stories originating from government-affiliated vessels, doesn't it?
Exactly. Proponents see those initial sightings reported from government whaling or research vessels as crucial proof. They argue it implies these ships weren't just there for their stated purpose, but were actively scouting for, monitoring, or already aware of the creatures, using research as a convenient cover for clandestine operations.
So, okay, that's the theory. What does this theory point to as actual evidence for all of these claims? What do proponents cite?
Well, the core evidence, as presented, really comes from those original eyewitness accounts, the anonymous posts on Japanese forums from alleged former crew members.
2 channel posts.
Right. They describe seeing massive, pale-shaped surface, sometimes revealing humanoid features, and consistently report feelings of shock and fear. Proponents argue that the alleged consistency across these anonymous accounts, despite their varied details, suggests a common underlying reality to the phenomenon.
And the anonymity is explained away how?
Yes, the anonymity of the posters isn't seen as a weakness by believers, but actually as further proof of the cover-up.
How's that work?
It's explained as being necessary because the witnesses fear retaliation from the government, or losing their jobs, or even just facing ridicule for reporting something so unbelievable. This reinforces the idea that there's a powerful force actively suppressing the truth.
Then there's the visual evidence, the photos and videos.
Ah, yes. The internet is full of blurry, low-quality images and grainy videos that are circulated as proof of Ningens. They're typically taken from a great distance, in poor lighting conditions, and depict really ambiguous shapes that are totally open to interpretation.
And the low quality that's interpreted strategically by believers. How?
It is, yeah. It's often spun in 2 main ways. One, it's argued that the low quality is simply due to the hasty, frightened nature of the witness capturing the image, like, a quick shaky photo taken before the creature submerges.
Okay. Plausible enough, maybe. What's the other way?
Two, and this is more conspiratorial, it's suggested that these poor quality images are actually deliberate leaks, or maybe even digital manipulations by government agencies.
Why would they do that?
The idea is they want to hint at the truth just enough to fuel speculation, but degrade the images so they can be easily dismissed by skeptics as inconclusive. A way to control the narrative, perhaps.
And official denials, how do they fit in?
Seen as confirmation, paradoxically. The consistent denial of the Ningen's existence by official bodies, the Japanese government, whaling organizations, mainstream scientific institutions, is viewed by proponents as definitive proof of a deliberate, coordinated cover-up. Because the reasoning is simple, if circular, they deny it so strongly precisely because it's real. Any denial just reinforces the belief for them.
What about sightings of unusual icebergs? You mentioned that earlier.
Right. Proponents frequently suggest that reports of unusual or unexpectedly shaped ice formations in the Antarctic could actually be misidentified Ningens.
Oh, right.
Their immense size, pale color, and habit of briefly surfacing before submerging could easily lead someone to mistake them for an oddly shaped iceberg, allowing the creature's true nature to remain hidden in plain sight, so to speak.
This brings up a point that actually does have a basis in fact, the unexplored nature of the deep ocean. How does that play into it?
This is one of the factual arguments that lends a degree of plausibility, not specifically to the Ningen itself, but to the general idea of undiscovered deep-sea megafauna. And scientists readily admit that vast portions of the ocean, particularly the abyssal and hadal zones in the deepest trenches, remain largely unexplored.
And proponents of the Ningen theory use that fact powerfully, I bet.
They do. They often pose the question rhetorically. How can they say Ningens don't exist when we've explored less of the ocean than we have the surface of the moon?
That's a good line.
It is. This comparison is used to frame the deep sea as this vast, unknown frontier where something this large and strange could potentially hide undetected by mainstream science. It makes the improbable seem slightly less improbable.
And finally, there are often rumors or whispers in these kinds of theories.
Yes, exactly. The theory is sometimes supported by vague, unverified whispers or leaks from alleged insiders, people claiming to be military personnel, intelligence agents, or scientists who supposedly confirm the existence of Ningens but are bound by NDAs or threats.
Unverifiable, though.
Completely unverifiable, but compelling to those already inclined to believe in secret government projects. And then there's also scrutiny of things like Japanese vessel movements, looking for any unusual detours or stops that can be interpreted as hints of clandestine Ningen-related operations.
Okay, so we've explored the theory and the evidence cited by proponents as presented in the sources. What does mainstream science say about all this? What are the counter-arguments laid out in the materials?
Well, mainstream science, as presented in the sources debunking the theory, firmly rejects the existence of Ningens and the whole idea of a government cover-up. Their position, essentially, is that the evidence can be explained by known scientific principles, human psychology, and the specific nature of how information spreads online these days.
And the single biggest counter-argument from the scientific side?
It's the absolute lack of any verifiable, credible evidence, period. There are no credible high-resolution photographs, no clear video footage, no physical specimens, bones, tissue, anything, and no scientifically verifiable data that has ever been presented to or confirmed by the scientific community.
So it's all just stories and fuzzy pictures?
Pretty much. All the evidence is either anecdotal, completely anonymous, or of extremely poor quality, which makes any kind of scientific study or verification impossible.
So those blurry internet images, what does science attribute those to?
Often, yes, known phenomena. One major explanation is pareidolia, that psychological phenomenon where our brains perceive familiar patterns, like human shapes, faces, etc., in ambiguous or random stimuli.
Seeing faces in clouds.
Exactly. Or seeing a humanoid shape in a weirdly shaped iceberg, a wave formation, or even just a distant marine mammal glimpsed quickly.
Or atmospheric conditions could play a role, especially the poles.
Definitely. Polar conditions, with their specific fog, cold temperatures, and weird light refraction effects, can create powerful atmospheric and optical illusions. These can distort the appearance of distant objects, making them seem larger, strangely shaped, or even move in odd ways.
So it could simply be a weird angle on a whale or something.
Very possibly. Large known marine mammals, particularly pale ones like belugas, although they're mainly Arctic, or maybe an unusual whale sighting, or even large schools of fish or giant squid seen from a distance, could easily be interpreted as indistinct pale moving shapes, especially in poor visibility or lighting.
And let's not forget the source of much of the evidence, the internet itself.
That's a critical point the skeptical sources raise. A significant portion of the online evidence is highly likely to be fabricated or digitally altered.
Hoaxes.
Exactly. The internet, and especially anonymous forums like 2channel where this started, are well-known breeding grounds for creepypastas, internet horror stories, and elaborate hoaxes created purely for entertainment, to go viral, or just for trolling purposes.
And that brings us back to the origin point of the legend itself on 2channel.
Right. The fact that the Ningen story seems to have originated on a forum widely known for fostering fiction and elaborate role-playing narratives strongly suggests as a creative, fictional source, rather than genuine sightings being reported.
It seems unlikely real whistleblowers would only post there.
Highly improbable, yeah. That real crew members with such incredible, potentially world-changing encounters would only report them anonymously on a forum known for hoaxes, without any more verifiable leaks or reports emerging through other channels later on.
What about the biological plausibility? Could something like this even evolve?
From a mainstream scientific perspective, biological implausibility is a major hurdle for the Ningen claims. While the deep ocean does host incredibly strange life forms, a giant humanoid creature of that size and with features so radically different from known marine biology is a massive evolutionary leap.
It doesn't fit anywhere.
Not really. It would require entirely novel adaptations and evolutionary pathways with no known precursors in the fossil record or among living species. That makes it highly improbable without substantial supporting scientific evidence, which, as we said, is entirely lacking.
And the global scientific community. Are marine biologists buzzing about this?
Not at all. The global scientific community, marine biologists, oceanographers, experts working in polar environments, does not recognize or endorse the existence of Ningens. Billions of dollars are invested globally in ocean research, using advanced sonar, submersibles, autonomous vehicles.
You'd think they'd have bumped into a 100-foot pale humanoid by now.
You would think if a creature of that size existed, it would almost certainly have been definitively detected and documented by now through these extensive research efforts.
Okay, and the official denials, which proponents see as proof of a cover-up, how does science view those?
From the scientific and governmental standpoint, the consistent denial of the Ningen's existence is simply standard practice. Governments and scientific institutions deny unsubstantiated phenomena precisely because there is no credible evidence to support them.
It's not proof of a cover-up, it's just procedure.
Exactly. It's adherence to evidence-based reasoning. The burden of proof always lies with those making the extraordinary claim, not on science to disprove every rumor.
So, okay. Despite the lack of credible evidence and the strong scientific counter-arguments outlined in the sources, this theory persists. It clearly resonates with a lot of people. Why do you think that is? What makes it stick?
Well, I think several underlying psychological and cultural factors are at play based on what the sources discuss. One is just the inherent allure of the unexplored deep ocean itself.
That's mysterious.
It truly is Earth's last great frontier, isn't it? A place that inspires both wonder and profound dread. The idea that something alien, monstrous, or simply unknown could lurk there taps into very primal human fears of the unknown, the dark, the abyssal depths.
It's our planet's inner space, really.
Exactly. And like many modern conspiracy theories, the Ningen cover-up theory feeds into a deep-seated distrust of authority, distrust of governments, distrust of science, distrust of official narratives.
Yeah, they're hiding something feeling.
Precisely. The belief that they are hiding something profound, dangerous, or valuable is a powerful psychological driver. It creates an us versus them dynamic where people feel deliberately kept in the dark by powerful forces.
Plus, people just love cryptids and unexplained phenomena, don't they?
Absolutely. There's a fundamental human fascination with undiscovered creatures, beings that challenge our current understanding of biology and the world. Cryptids offer that tantalizing possibility that the world is stranger, more mysterious, and maybe more exciting than we're told by mainstream science.
And the Ningen has that specific, unsettling, human-like element we talked about.
Yes. That adds another really potent layer of psychological resonance. It's not just a generic sea monster. It's described as a giant, pale, humanoid monster. That feels both alien and disturbingly familiar.
Uncanny Valley territory.
Definitely. It taps into fears about our own origins, what lurks in the human form, and what other unsettling versions of humanity might exist or be hidden from us.
We talked about the low-quality images, but their power is important here too, right? Even if they're fake or misidentified?
Crucially important. Ambiguous visuals are often far more compelling than clear ones for conspiracy theories and cryptid legends. A blurry photo or a grainy video, even one easily debunked by analysis, allows viewers to project their own fears, expectations, and beliefs onto the shape.
Your mind fills in the blanks.
Exactly. The ambiguity leaves room for the imagination to fill in the terrifying blanks, making it feel more real in their minds than a sharply defined image might be. Clarity can kill a mystery.
And it fits into that broader truth is out there mentality you find online.
It does. For many proponents, the Ningen theory serves as another piece of evidence supporting the idea that the world is fundamentally stranger and more complex than official sources claim, and that powerful forces are actively obscuring true reality. Believing in it provides a sense of being awake or in the know, having access to a hidden truth that others miss.
It really is a fascinating case study in how modern myths are created and spread online, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It demonstrates the powerful process of modern myth-making. Starting from anonymous online forums, amplified by compelling narratives and ambiguous imagery, even if fabricated, these stories can rapidly gain traction and evolve into complex, widely believed conspiracy theories, often with minimal or no verifiable factual grounding. It's a myth born of the internet age, reflecting very contemporary anxieties.
So what does this all mean for you, diving into this theory with us? We've explored this chilling contemporary legend, tracing its online origins and dissecting the theory that posits a real, hidden, and potentially exploited humanoid creature.
And we've presented the counterpoint, the complete lack of credible scientific evidence and the robust explanations offered by mainstream science for the alleged sightings and photos, things like pareidolia, known animals, and hoaxes.
This theory clearly thrives not on scientific proof, but on that deep-seated distrust of authority, the inherent allure of the unknown, and the profound mystery of the deep ocean. It stands as a testament, really, to the power of human imagination, especially when that imagination is fueled by fear and suspicion in the absence of concrete facts.
Yeah, it takes the vast unknown depths right here on our planet and turns them into this canvas onto which we project our deepest fears. Fears about monstrous things lurking in the dark, sure, but also fears about what they, the powers that be, might be hiding from us.
So the next time you see a strange shape in the water, or read about the mysteries still hidden in the ocean trenches, or even just ponder the secrets governments might keep, maybe consider the Ningen.
Is it, as the theory claims, a genuine undiscovered species, a terrifying secret actively guarded by the world's most powerful nations, perhaps even being studied right now for sinister purposes?
Or is it a powerful modern myth, reflecting our collective anxieties about the unexplored corners of our world and that ever-present suspicion that the truth about reality, both natural and political, remains shrouded in secrecy?
The truth, at least according to the sources we've explored here, remains elusive, hidden somewhere in the shadows of the deep, and perhaps even deeper in the depths of human belief.